important test for how well Obamacare is working. Well, it's not working. Not working at all. That's why the cost is going up. The cost of the lowest tiered individual plans appear to be ticking upward, according to multiple experts who have reviewed the proposed rates. The increases vary widely among plans and among states, but experts say people are still unlikely to face the kind of doomsday scenario critics predicted would occur under the healthcare law. Well, yeah, because it's not going to be this huge increase in costs because they've already had a bunch of large increases. I mean, how much more can they go up before, they really tick off even the people that still support the whole thing? Which aren't many, by the way. I mean, you just want to get rid of your, all your support. Well, I guess they really didn't care about the full support because they were just going to do whatever they wanted to do anyway, regardless. So, be that as it may. And as in years past, some of those rate increases have been enormous. Enormous. The trend is a little bit higher this year than last year, said Gary Claxton, director of the Healthcare Marketplace Program for the Kaiser Family Foundation. Now, under Obamacare, all proposed rate hikes above 10% were required to be posted online by Monday. Now begins a 6-month back and forth between insurance companies and regulators as the government tries to reduce rates before locking them in this November. So, expect your rates to go up, your health insurance rates. Yeah. Hey, you can all afford it. It's important. You can't put a price on your health. Can't put a price tag on that. You should be willing to pay anything. I even had I remember a person once saying, if you spent $10 a day on your health, you'd be healthy. $10 a day, that's $300 a month. You think the average person should be spending $300 a month on their health? Well, yeah. Was the reply. Okay, so a family of 4 is going to spend $1,200 a month on their health? He says, well, look at the alternative. Yeah, I know, paying for health. So they got to pay, they're probably paying, $1,200 a month or more for health insurance for a plan that they probably don't want and won't use. And then they got to, add an additional $1,200 so they can be healthy. So, that's basically $2,400 or $2,500 a month. That's ridiculous. That's $30,000 a year, basically. Who can afford that? Well, he said, try living without it. Can you afford to live without it? I'm like, yeah, a lot of people have. Without spending that kind of money. But the whole point is that people would get to the point where they couldn't afford it. They'd have to cancel out or go for a government program, which means now the government gets more and more power and more influence and begins to dictate and then take over because the insurance companies just say, well, we can't do this for this price and we can't do that for this price. And the wonderful doctors and other healthcare providers they start saying, well, we really can't do it for that low price. And the government will just say, either take it or leave it. And those that stay who don't leave it are not going to be the best and the brightest. And those who say, well, I'm going to leave it, are either going to leave the country and practice medicine overseas, or they're just going to leave the medical profession altogether in the United States. And maybe they'll write books and go on speaking tours, but they don't have to deal with patients on a daily basis. So this is where this is all going. It's going to scarcity. Because, you can't add people or patients to the patient roles without adding sufficient numbers of healthcare providers. And if you're eliminating some of them because, you're not paying enough or you're limiting how they can get paid and things like that, then yeah, and that scarcity is going to cause an increase in cost. And they're going to, they'll try to soften the blow of the increases by spreading the increase over a number of different areas. So it doesn't seem so bad, except, a 5% increase in, your deductible, and then a 5% increase in your coverage, your monthly plan, and then a 5% increase in your drug plan, and a 5% increase in this part of the plan, and on and on and on. And pretty soon, before you know it, you're at a 25-30% increase, because that's the way they try to do it. So you don't think that you're seeing it or feeling it, but you notice that there's less money in your pocket, in your back pocket, every month. Yeah, that's how that works, basically. They think they're putting one over on you. They think they're being slick. They're not being slick at all. But these are they're the ones that say that the whole point of all of this nonsense and mess is just to get you so frustrated, so upset, so sick of it, that you demand that government just fully take it over, single payer system. Because then you're going to think it's going to be like, Social Security, that everybody's going to pay the same. And now, nope. And you think that everybody's just going to pay a small part, and then, employers are going to pay the rest. And nope. Again, nope. What about all the people without jobs? Who's going to pay their premiums if we go that route? Think about it. Who's going to pay that? They're not working, or they can't find a job. What do we got? 98, 97, 95 million people out of work right now. So who's going to pay for them? Who's going to pay their premiums? There's no employer out there because they're not employed. Or maybe they're self-employed. Well, now they got to pay the whole, the whole boat. That's the other thing. Small business is going to get hammered hard if government takes over to a single payer system. If you think it's, we've got issues now with small business and we've got fewer people starting new businesses. This is a record low year for that in modern times. This is a president that is killing the entrepreneurial spirit. It's amazing. Usually when you have people out of work and you have a down economy, you have all kinds of new companies and new innovations because people are forced to, mother of invention, or, necessity is the mother of invention, the type of thing going on. But not this time around. People just can't see how they can make it, because there's so much stacked against them. And then they have to deal with all kinds of new regulations and other things when it comes to and business taxes and even in this state, in New Hampshire, there's a movement on trying to change the tax code a little bit, because the tax code has a huge penalty for LLCs. No other type of corporation, just an LLC. It's called the LLC tax, and it's devastating for anybody who wants to have an LLC or wants to change from an LLC. It's humongous. It's whoever. Well, Democrats came up with it, but it's terrible. You don't do that to business. You don't do that to small business. You can't. Small business can't afford to take on such huge payments like this. And if you think, well, hey, all businesses are rich and they have all this money. No, they don't. They just don't. That's why they're small businesses. They're mom and pop shops, most of them. Well, they're making good. Most of them, they're not living in mansions and driving Mercedes. Well, sure, some of them might. It is their business, their company. They're the ones that put the initial investment and capital into the business, so they should reap the benefits. Not some other lazy. Well, maybe the employer's not employee's not lazy, but still, they don't own the company. They didn't put it out there. The risk. They didn't take the risk to start it. Me being an entrepreneur, I understand risk and reward. I do. I'm the one that, if I'm starting a business, I'm the one who's making the investment of my own money, or I'm the one that's backing the investment from borrowed money, which I would have to pay back. It's you can say, well, the business owner didn't build that alone. Well, yeah. Of course, they may have had some assistance, but understand, don't ever I always say don't underestimate the contribution of employees, but don't overestimate the contribution of an employee either. Because that employee probably didn't do everything within their power to make the business and business owner a complete and total success. That's just not the way it works. In most cases, an employee is not going to put in the same hours, especially at the startup, as the owner. And well, I mean, it doesn't happen that way all the time. I mean, sometimes you may have what they call a turnkey or absentee owner, and that's a person who probably has another job, by the way. Yeah, so they're out working another job, probably not taking a salary on the business. And, and only there, I guess, basically what you would consider to be part-time hours. But there's a lot more behind the scenes. If you have a retail establishment or anything like that, there's a lot of stuff behind the scenes that regular employees just don't see. So they may think they know what the owner is doing, but they don't realize that the owner, when they close the shop at 9 or 10 o'clock at night, the owner still goes at home or sitting at the desk in the shop, doing other stuff on the business, working on the business until midnight or 1 or 2 a.m. every night. Then they have to get up again and go to their regular job and be there for 8:30 to 5 or whatever it is, and do it all over. And they're getting up early so they can be in the business before it opens. And then they go to their real job. And look, I've seen people do this. A gentleman started he bought a motel, which really wasn't a motel anymore, but bought a motel. He added a miniature golf course. Now, the guy got there every day at like 6 a.m. because then he would have to go to his regular job and working, 8:30 to 5. And then as soon as he got out from work, he'd be back over there, looking at the plans, making, when they were building the course and then making sure things were running smooth. He was joining he did so much. And he didn't leave until 10 or 11 at night, and then he had to go home, and he tried to get some sleep, and then he's up again, and he's back, day in and day out, 6 and 7 days a week. This is what this guy did. And you want to tell me that an employee who doesn't do that deserves more than what the employer does because the employer didn't do that? The employer did that and more, but they cannot afford to pay out any more than they're already paying out. So this whole notion that you think that, New York especially thinks that they can get the business to pay the biggest bulk, 80% of the premiums in a government-run single-payer system, they got another thing coming. They're going to lose business left and right. People are just going to flee the state. Maybe even then they wouldn't get the hint.